Dun 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 dun. Happy Star Wars weekend. This is your regular edition of MedHeads, MedCityNews.com's weekly look at the business of innovation in healthcare. Our main topic today is hacking medicine and hacking healthcare, and what we can learn about that process and continue to learn about that process through a group of people who want to hack, and since then, in the last 6 months, have been building up a real honest-to-goodness company. But there's something that happened this week that is too good to pass up, and so we're going to hack MedHeads and talk a little bit about usually what we talk about at the end of MedHeads, one of the most interesting things that's happened this week in Martin Shkreli. Before we get all of these things off, I want to introduce the three people who are joining me: Chris Seper, who runs MedCityNews.com on MedHeads. I want to introduce MedCity News' very own C3PO. She covers early-stage life science innovations, and particularly around pharma and biotech. She is Meghana Keshavan. Meghana, how you doing?
Great, great.
Star Wars fan at all? I didn't even ask.
Definitely going this week, but I haven't.
So would you have referred to yourself as our very own C3PO?
Oh, where else? I'm like Leia, except.
Oh, you know. But you don't have the bun. You need the bun. So, also joining us, and I will just let you, our very own host, Dr. Mark Zhang, co-founder and the CMO of Cake. Mark, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Han Solo, was that fair? Was that your guy?
Han? Oh, you know what? Actually, there was just a thing on one of the medical blogs, Gomer blog, about the different Star Wars characters and specialties.
Yeah.
And as a palliative care doctor, I believe Obi-Wan is the right person for palliative care. I'll be
very good. Very.
Although your headphones
good.
are Leia.
They are a little Leia. That's right. That's right.
Well, and finally, our third guest is Suelin Chen. She is the CEO and co-founder of Cake. Suelin, I'm going to guess Boba Fett.
Close. I'm actually Chewbacca, because I actually don't have a. I don't have a middle name, and in middle school, a friend actually wrote Chewbacca on a form, and I was Suelin Chewbacca Chen on a few different documents in school.
Give us your best Chewbacca.
Amazing, actually.
So,
give us your best Chewbacca.
Oh, God, that's so embarrassing.
Listen. That is great. That is great. But look, we can all say
60%.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
That was at 60%.
Okay, 60% Chewbacca.
That's pretty great.
Well, look, no one should be as embarrassed. Look, I kicked off with a fantastic rendition of the Star Wars theme, but nobody should be probably as embarrassed or maybe humbled this week as Martin Shkreli, right? Our guy, our maverick, Wu-Tang Clan loving, drug price raising, maverick CEO owning, pharma scion was arrested this week. Meghana, why don't you run through this? You've been leading the coverage for us all week, so give us the summary of our man Martin.
Sure, but first off, I want to cite that Gomer blog that Mark referred to. Martin Shkreli was oh gosh, what's his name? Big Slug.
Oh, Boba? No. Jabba the Hutt.
Gomer blog deemed Martin Shkreli Jabba the Hutt because of his.
It all goes together. It's just one continuous stream.
It all fits. Our erstwhile CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals got arrested yesterday and arraigned for securities fraud for some not so great actions at Retrofin, his old company, and before that MSMB Capital. Basically, the Attorney General U.S. Attorney at the time referred to it as a Ponzi-like scheme, and Martin Shkreli resigned today from leading up Turing Pharmaceuticals. So things are not so great in the world of our buddy over there, who we spoke to about 2 months ago on MedHeads, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so we got to make clear that the thing that everybody loves to hate Martin Shkreli about is obviously his decision to raise the price on Daraprim, right, from Turing Pharma. But what he's arrested for was essentially trying to make insider deals and basically replenish the coffers of his fund with proceeds from his earlier pharma company. But for most people, I think, out there, and let me toss this over to Suelin, because you've actually got a pretty good point of view on this. It's really kind of everybody feels the comeuppance for this drug price issue, and Suelin, and so it's a great thing to just talk about. And I'd love to hear your take on what's happened this week and what's happening with him.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like the quintessential Schadenfreude for everybody. So yeah, I in a previous life, I actually used to be a pharma pricing consultant, so I know a little bit about it. But I think that, what's been happening with, we have free pricing in this country, and it's just really unsustainable. And so I think it was kind of just a matter of time before a Martin Shkreli kind of situation happened. I think in some ways we're lucky that he happens to be such a perfect villain in some ways. But I think that, the way healthcare pricing is working in this country is that's perfect.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, it's really accurate. And I actually think it's great for everyone to be more aware, and I think the discussions that it's engendered has been really helpful, and that his arguments about why it's okay and that's not really affecting out of pocket, but then how is that kind of affecting the system as a whole? I think people are really starting to get a sense for that, and I think that's really good for our healthcare system.
So, Mark, I mean, I think, like, I know that I'm a learned man. I've read the news. I've been following along, and I know that this whole arrest was, because of things that happened before everything with the price hikes. But can we talk about the Wu and the album? And do you think that has anything to do with this arrest? Because I believe, three very wise men, Inspector Deck, Method Man, and RZA, maybe one time said that Clang ain't nothing to mess with, if you will. And I wonder if we're just experiencing that right now, the effects of the aftermath, if you will.
Well, I thought, Meghana, one of the lines, I think it was the last couple sentences in your story, addressed what I thought was very important about Wu-Tang, right? Because some people thought that because he was arrested, it was going to be part of Discovery, right? The Wu-Tang album was going to be part of Discovery, and then everybody would hear it. But it turns out they didn't see it. Right? What happened? Let's get that. Mark's right. This is the most important medical issue of our time.
What's
happened with
right.
the Wu-Tang album?
That's it.
Well, I mean, the U.S. Attorney basically said that they do not know where the funding for the Wu-Tang album came from, but they are not investigating that at this time. It was one of the more popular questions in the press conference, though. I think that FBI also tweeted out something about that, but.
Well, but and what's interesting? We posted David Williams, who blogs and aggregates some of his posts on MedCity News. Wrote that really we all should owe Martin Shkreli thank you. Maybe we should all throw in for his bail, right, or his legal defense, because without him, people think that it might still be pharma as usual when it comes to drug price hikes, and that his high-profile approach has actually slowed price increases, turned more in scrutiny to Valent and some of the other companies. I mean, is that a legit point of view?
Yeah,
anybody wants to answer that.
I personally think that anytime there's this huge PR crisis like this, I feel like my fellow pricing consultants and their clients, the pharma companies they work for, are much more careful, and they definitely think about it. Before that, if that's not a factor, it's it's up to the payers to decide whether or not they'll reimburse it. But now there's this other factor that I think is more and more powerful, which is PR and public opinion, the court of public opinion, which is great, I think.
More eyes are looking.
But also, more eyes. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
No, that's it. I think that's so important, because I think this is a situation that just got opened up by what they were doing, and I think when you have more people scrutinizing what's going on and exactly why, I think it makes it makes it harder to do things like this in the future.
But here's a question. The reason that people are paying attention is because of the Wu-Tang aspects of it and because of his ludicrous personality, and much less because of what he actually did, because Wall Street folks have been doing this kind of thing forever, and the pharmaceutical industry obviously has been too, and no one really has paid attention until, as you said, the perfect villain stepped in. But what if Martin Shkreli learns his lesson, after this arrest, and what if he actually shuts up? Like, will people still care? Or will they care about ISIS? Or whatever else is on the top.
Is that the lesson? I mean, is the lesson just to shut up? Or is the lesson that, we have a broken reimbursement system that allows loopholes like this to occur?
Oh, no, I agree. And the lesson should be a reimbursement system, but I'm talking about your general public that'll push the bar. And I mean, I think that they're listening because of his crazy personality and not so much because of the technicalities of what's going on. And so I'm just wondering, if he actually did shut up, if people would continue to pay attention. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be more and more kind of PR situations in the future, other Martin Shkreli's, other issues. Actually, I mean, not to segue too quickly into what Mark and I have been working on from the hackathon, but, the cost of end-of-life care is another one. I think there's all sorts of areas in our healthcare system where, because of how decoupled it is, it's really kind of out of control. And I think that, I mean, I think you're right. Even if Martin Shkreli ends up, never kind of being on our newsfeed ever again, I do think that, something has to be done with our healthcare system.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think let's segue into that. I do think, I guess my last thought on it is, when the pendulum swings back, right, it plays no favorites, and so it's Martin Shkreli is getting it to swing back the other way, and it's taking out a lot of folks that maybe could make a case for higher prices. I mean, I'm a Sovaldi defender. I think that you can totally make a case for a very expensive upfront payments for a drug that cures something that will afflict you and cause you to drain capital and life force for years and years and years. But that's not the case in some of these other cases where people have just swapped out spiking prices with real R&D, raising capital, or doing a whole bunch of other things that might be appropriate. And actually segue into it, what you were all a part of in the GrandHack, it was something that says, let's think about healthcare differently. Let's think about healthcare in a modern way. Let's solve problems in a new and different way. And Meghana, MedCity News wanted to this year really take a look at the hacking phenomenon in healthcare. So why don't you talk about what started this 6 months ago, and then we'll catch up here with Suelin and Mark about what's been happening next.
Yeah, so in April, Chris actually had me go to the MIT GrandHack. It's a healthcare hackathon in Boston. And it was mostly just to see, on the ground how a startup forms and how it works and just, report back my observations. But in the process, I happened to join an amazing team that won, 2 awards. Place was one of them for our concept. And the reason I was involved is because I gravitated towards these folks who we have here. And over the course of a weekend, we brainstormed the idea of end-of-life care. Suelin had already had some experience developing a startup in that world, and Mark is a palliative care doctor, so it was kind of a really great fit, and we formed a team of about 7 of us. We just really talked about end-of-life care issues and really tried to find out what a good solution to a good, easy, first, level solution might be. And now we have something a little newer.
Yeah, and that is now. So let's talk about this. I mean, you went through this process, and basically there was a company like the hacks are supposed to do, which is create a company. It was an end-of-life consultation company, for lack of a better phrase, called MyProxy. And then you were all motivated with the win that you had to take it out into the next step, into the real world, for lack of a better term. So talk about that transition from baby created at the hack to now going and trying to raise it.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, like Meghana said, I did come in with this desire to do something around end of life because I just felt like that was one of the biggest problems in healthcare today. And I was just so fortunate to meet these amazing people on the team, including Mark. And Mark also already had this passion on how do you put tech and palliative care together. So it was an amazing meeting, and I really don't think that we would have met were it not for the hackathon. And I think meeting Mark and getting his insights and expertise really allowed us to create something amazing together that I would never have been able to do on my own. I would have continued, trying to do something on my own, but I don't think we would have gotten the traction that we got had we not joined forces.
And Mark, it sounds, I think one of the things that is hardest about company formation and sometimes is the right people, particularly the right peer or partner or co-founder. And so it sounds like the hack, as you took my proxy out to a real company, there was suddenly a confidence with you and Suelin that you were good partners because of the heat of the battle of the hack. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we complement each other. I have a deep expertise in the specialty and just the area and the need, and Suelin has the business side, the consultancy side, and also just the connections in the tech landscape in Boston. And I think the combination really is a compelling product, and I think people in the Boston community have responded very well to our team. It's actually interesting, the end of life sector and the advanced care planning sector is growing. And it's interesting, hospice, just as and this is only a very small segment of the advanced care planning sector, but hospice is now over a $15 billion industry. So more and more people are paying attention to this field, and it's telling that Cake is one of the few companies with an actual palliative care specialist on the core team.
Let me jump in, because you just mentioned it became my proxy to Cake, and I want to hear from both of you kind of that process, right? Tell it, what was the my proxy, the idea of my proxy, and how did it change and to become Cake, and why did it change? Why wasn't that idea right out of the hack perfect?
Yeah, it was pretty. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just wondering why it wasn't my exit strategy also.
Yeah. I think you get this advice from other entrepreneurs all the time, and it actually is totally true that you really have to be married and passionate about the problem, but not necessarily married to your solution. And I think that's exactly what happened to us. We knew that the problem was right, that we were tackling something that had a huge need, and my proxy was almost there. We were definitely we were trying to make it easier for people to identify healthcare proxies, which is the person you would trust to make medical decisions for you if you can't speak for yourself. But what Mark and I realized was, hey, would we use this? Would we sit there on our phones and actually use this? And maybe Mark, you can talk a little bit about how we iterated on the actual user experience and how it transformed.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, I think my proxy, the core feature, the core idea of my proxy persists with Cake. And what that is trying to lower the barrier to get the conversation started about advanced care planning. What we've actually done is, with my proxy, we started with healthcare proxies because we thought that, that would be the easiest way to get into planning for end of life. But we realized very quickly that most people don't even know what a healthcare proxy is. So there's this element of discussing and educating, like, what is a healthcare proxy? Then after that, you have to say, well, why would you want to do this? So we realized that even though the solution and the thrust and just the general idea concept was sound, we were starting at it from not the right place. So that's why we created Cake, which actually acknowledges that, people probably don't know the medical terms and the legal terms, and we need to start somewhere much earlier upstream, and that's just starting with very simple value propositions, because ultimately, the goal of Cake in advanced care planning is really to make sure that your loved ones and the people that care about you know what you would want, and we don't have to solve everything at once. We just want to get it started. So really, how we came up with this was after GrandHack, Suelin had already gone through the first round of judging for Mass Challenge with my exit strategy. I joined my exit strategy as CMO, and we actually pitched my proxy during the second round of Mass Challenge, got through, and were Mass Challenge finalists this year. And during Mass Challenge, we really took time to sit down and think about that's where we came up with these insights about where we were with my proxy, and a lot of it was really being on the floor, in the street, talking with people, talking with potential customers, really figuring out why, what people wanted, and I think that's partially why we got to where we are, and why we remain one of the easiest way to think about end of life, because we talked with hundreds of people. And it wasn't just physicians, but we talked with physicians, lawyers, social workers, just patients, to figure out what people actually want and where the deficiencies are, and that's why we're so upstream.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, Sue.
Oh no, I was just gonna reiterate that. Yeah, that time listening was so important, and we realized that. We heard this too from many doctors and patients, that having a healthcare proxy form is useless if you've never talked to your proxy about what your values are. And then we realized actually it's really hard for people to even know what their values are. So how can we walk them through a framework of how to think about it and get clarity on what they want, and really just completely.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, Suelin.
Oh no.
She's Han. She's Han Solo trapped, right? And she's in a carbon freezing. So well, let me. I was gonna. She will unfreeze her, right? All right, we'll get her. She's probably got to go through that cold blindness that Han did. But Meghana, I want to go back to you. It's because you touched on something interesting about the hack, and I want to talk to you and get your confirmation. Then I want to go back to Suelin and Mark about this. The hacking phenomenon was always explained to me as to bring disparate people together to think about business models differently and create ideas there. But there's clearly been an evolution of who attends the hack. We've talked about it here. People now go to hacks with ideas in place. I mean, is that a fair description, Meghana? How do you describe the current kind of audience that goes and participates in hacking medicine, and how different is that, and how true is it to that kind of core beginning?
Well, I mean, my experience, since I went in having no expectations or ideas to necessarily pitch, I noticed that when the teams were initially forming, one guy was going around saying, "Are you a programmer? We have this idea. We've been working on it for like 2 years, and we just need a programmer to help us develop an app." And I was like, "No, I don't. Sorry," but that was just one example of people bringing an idea in, and I think that that's pretty important to have something that's actually useful to come out of a hack. Because you can spend 48 hours brainstorming on something and create something out of nothing, but I think you get a little bit more advanced probably if you have a general idea of what it is that you want to work on in the first place, which is what happened for you guys. So
yeah.
So I've done this. I've done like 3 hackathons now. 2 of them as a participant, and then one. This year, I'm a clinical informatics and innovation fellow at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and part of that was helping arrange and work with the Brigham and Women's Health Hackathon that they did with MIT Hacking Medicine. And my role in that was helping to plan, but also I participated as a expert in hackathons, because I've won 2 hackathons already, so my area of expertise was literally in winning hackathons. So I think I've seen like the different groups of people that come into hackathons, and just as a general trend from the 3 that I've gone to, there is definitely a group of people that come in with a preconceived idea, preformed team, missing typically like one key component, and it's typically the programming aspect. I think there's another tranche of people that come in who know what area they want to innovate in and may have some preliminary ideas, but certainly nothing fixed. And then there are people that just kind of come in who don't really have any idea, and they're kind of open-minded and they want to just meet people. And I think hackathons in itself are valid for all those 3 tranches, right? I don't think that I know in the planning phase for the Brigham Hackathon, there was this lively discussion about whether did we want pre-formed teams or people with preconceived ideas to come to the hackathon? Would that sully the spirit? And I think for me, one, I think it's impossible to really sift out, because people can just say that they're not part of a team in their application, and even though they are. And two, I think the spirit of the hackathon is really the concentrated time, breaking down silos and meeting new people and creating great ideas. So I think, for what Meghana was saying about that company that had this great idea for 2 years and just needed a developer, my question would be, well, if it were such a great idea, why couldn't you find a developer in those 2 years? And maybe the hackathon was what they needed to really push forward. But
I want you to answer this too. I mean, I think, Mark, you just did a great job of talking about the 3 types of people that are there. But it seems, winning the MIT GrandHack is the thing that entrepreneurs want or can be, which is validation, right? But there does seem to be something different between somebody who says, man, I have this great idea, I want to try it out, and somebody who's kind of already in process of a company and bringing it to the hack. The agenda just seems different, right? Because the people who have that company built are like, I want the hack for validation, right? Some of these people trying it out are like, I want to find people to maybe give my idea a run and be better at this for the future. And I don't know if those are complementary as much as they are in kind of changing what hackathons are about. And push back on me if I'm nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just jump in and I totally agree with you. And I think even if you come in with a company, I think you should definitely come in with an open mind, because the whole point of a hackathon is to get new perspectives. And I think the hardest part about building a company is really figuring out what you're not going to do and what are the dead ends. And I think Meghana can definitely attest. We came in with a clear area, right? The end-of-life care is messed up. But then we iterated a lot, and we had some crazy ideas. We had some rated R ideas that we decided that were not, that were maybe dead ends. And that process, you can't really, I mean, hackathons actually do a pretty good job at cultivating that kind of discussion. And
carbon freezing is just a monster, isn't it? Meghana, we'll share that rated R idea.
Well, it was called Kill Switch, and it was a tool in which you could have your porn stash on your computer or whatever it is deleted, so that your mom wouldn't stumble on it.
So this idea,
where can Martin Shkreli download that? Just had to work it all in.
He doesn't care.
Well, hey, Mark, Suelin is still in carbon freezing. We're coming up to the end of MedHeads. So, and from what I no, she's been eaten by that monster underneath Jabba's lair. But Mark, if we talked about the company. No worries, Suelin. We're just talking about where the company is now and where it's going. You came out of the hack. You went through Mass Challenge. Did you get a little more capital? You developed it into Cake. What is the next step? What is Cake involved in right now? And really, what's going to be success for Cake in 2016?
Yeah, so we actually have completely bootstrapped our way to, we've had thousands of people sign up for Cake since we launched in the fall, which actually has even amazed even Mark and myself, because it is an app that helps you think about death, which is hard. So our next step is that, we've been talking to our users a ton, getting surveys, getting feedback, and we know what we need to build next to make the application a lot more useful, frankly, and valuable for our users and for their loved ones. And so the next step is just to continue executing on that and serving our users. So we'll be looking for seed capital soon. We're also in the Liberty Mutual Accelerator. They have a brand new startup accelerator. And we're also in another incubator called Tea House. And we were just accepted to the Social Innovation Forum's accelerator as well. So we have all these supporting institutions that are helping us think through various things. So, I think, and we're also actually, probably Mark should talk about this more, we're also starting to work with Mass General, which we're really, really excited about. So, for 2016, we want to raise some capital, keep building out our application, and actually work with some of these strategic partners as well. So maybe Mark, I don't know if you want to chime in on Mass General.
Yeah, Mark, talk about that. Talk about 2016, the work you're gonna do.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. I think that right now we're still very much in talks, and I'm not sure how much I can say, but to summarize, we're taking numbers, we're winning awards, and 2016 is going to be a big year.
Yeah, and I guess if you just look generally at the trends in healthcare, and Kaiser just did a study that 89% of people want to talk to their doctor about end-of-life issues, but only 17% have. And with Medicare reimbursing advanced care consultations, I think this is going to be a big thing, a big need, and I think we're just super well positioned to help people get in the door and talking about this.
Well, I want to thank all three of you for participating. I do think, no matter what year it is, the ongoing challenge in healthcare is how to innovate better, think differently, and do better. And I think that the hackathon has been one of probably the bright spots over the last 3 years of consistently kind of bringing new thinking and new approaches in. So this conversation, I think, is really valuable for the medical industry. And I want to thank all of you for watching today, for Obi-Wan Kenobi, for Princess Leia, for Chewbacca. I'm Greedo. Thank you for watching MedHeads. This is the final MedHeads of the year. I hope you have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in 2016. Thanks, everyone.